What's up, guys? It's Matt Vaughan here with CardsChat Pro, and we're going to be back here for another Play and Explain. New camera. Hope that you enjoy that. It's in beta mode, so sometimes it's going to blur out my face for no reason, but it's pretty cool. I get sidetracked very easily though today. So today we're going to be back with another Play and Explain. Today's focus is going to be on the very lowest stakes games. So this is 10 cent, 20 cent. On Club GG, which is not the lowest that exists, but you're going to be kind of like, we're going to just be talking about some concepts around the low stakes games. So talking about like playing a high rake environment, and what are the adjustments you have to make when that's what you're doing. We're going to talk about kind of like dealing with player types that you might encounter. We might talk about just kind of like, we're going to talk about the spots that come up, of course, but in the context of maybe in not as tough of a player pool. And a lot of times you'll hear people it's kind of a trope of poker that I just got on a wait list here. It's kind of a trope of poker that they're like, I hate bad players. I hate playing against bad players. I can't put them on a hand. They don't respect my bets and all this stuff. And so what are the adjustments that we're going to make based on that? And so, we're going to hop onto a couple of tables, hopefully 3 or 4 if some seats open up. And we're going to go from there. Let's get into some hands. So one thing you'll notice right away about playing pretty much any low stakes game, but and also not necessarily super low stakes games as well, like micros, is that not everybody buys in for the max. And this game happens to be 50 bigs to 150 bigs, so I'm in for 150. But you can see nobody else came in for more than 100 besides me. So I'll be playing 100 bigs effective against 2 of the players, but the stack sizes are also going to just change over time. And some players will top up and some won't. So you just want to make sure you're always tracking how much you're actually playing for against somebody, because stack depth in poker is one of the most important keys of really any hand. So one thing we're going to notice is that right away, we're probably going to have to play a little bit tighter in a high rake environment in a low stakes game. So just because you're going to have to win sort of a higher ratio of pots, you're going to have to win bigger pots, and so you're going to want stronger hands to get there with. Kind of interesting, we would have made a straight against ace queen on the river, but most likely if we'd played that hand, it kind of doesn't matter because we would have bet earlier and taken it down. But in any case, so this is a spot that's actually somewhat marginal in my opinion. God, I really hope you can't hear my dog just going to town on her empty food bowl. So classless. But here we are. This is a spot where I do think we can call, but this is like a very borderline hand in a higher rake environment. I think that in the big blind, it would be a slam dunk call. In the small blind, it becomes much more questionable. But easy check. We ended up multi-way, which will happen frequently as well. And that's also kind of bad for us in a high rake environment because the pot will be inflated and we'll win the pot less often. So both of those things are problems when it comes to rake considerations. Against pot, we just have absolutely no hope here. You notice that, again, playing against different stack sizes, if he was 30 bigs $30 effective with us, I could certainly consider continuing here because we would just see that, probably still wouldn't against pot, but like there's so much left to play for that the open-ended backdoors and the flush draw backdoors are going to be much more powerful in that context with more money behind. I have the possibility to bluff. I could maybe check raise. But because he only has $8 behind after making that bet, we just can't really justify getting involved with a hand that has some equity, no doubt has some equity, but not enough, and not enough equity realization when it's like all going to be in on the turn pretty often. And if that's what happens, and even if we pick up a draw and he jams, like we most likely just have to fold. And so making those sorts of like future street decisions, stack depth is super relevant always. So again, this is a spot where I think offsuit, we can just fold in a high rake environment. Now granted, I have a VPIP requirement, so I have to be a little bit careful, but Jack 10 suited, I would definitely call, but against 4.5x with this limper in there, we're gonna go multi-way. This hand just won't flop that well that often, and yeah, so we're gonna need to be careful when we are trying to get involved here, that we are not kind of overstepping. All right, so we finally get a spot to VPip. I think this one is pretty fine as an overlimp. Our hand will play pretty well multi-way. I don't expect to isolate too often unless we go very large, which with this hand I think is it's a little too weak to go to a really big size. And you notice somebody behind us can still wake up with a hand here. So in this instance, we are. I mean, we're getting an okay price, but I expect when people make it the like 15x size, we just probably are way behind. So we're gonna get out of there. Would have results oriented, flopped, no diamonds. We can see the guy just rips it. I mean, this is not crazy because it's only 1.5x pot versus his opponent. Again, being aware of stack sizes. But I mean, this shows that it's very likely this player just has like a very overpair heavy range with maybe ace king, king queen in there. So like even when he's bluffing, we often cannot call. And that's a big problem. So when somebody 15x's it, just kind of, it's okay to give respect, and it doesn't mean you respect how they're playing per se, but it means you respect essentially the range they're representing, right? Here again, this is a beautiful hand. I would say that in some circumstances we could peel here, but you notice there's like 4 limps, it's 7x, and we just can't. We just can't. Let's tune into the action here and see what happens. But you'll notice that like when people limp, they don't really limp fold all that often for the most part at low stakes. So they're in there, they're limping, trying to see a flop. So you notice the adjustment from the players with the bigger stacks is often going to be to raise very large, and they're still very likely to get calls. Well, now we got a disconnect here, so I might cut this part out. Oh, he's back. So you notice there's a call from the small blind, and this like shouldn't really happen too often. This should mostly be 3-better fold in a spot like this. And I imagine now that there's one call, we'll see at least 1 or 2 more, if not all 3. These players are not deep enough to really justify what's happening here. And yet here we go, 5-way pot, right? And what would we have flopped? I mean, even if we flop top pair, we're not even like excited about it. And that's a problem that comes with these sorts of like somewhat connected flush, flush draw hands, suited hands, and just hands that like are kind of historically pretty, but just won't actually perform that well in a vacuum. Here we are on a 3rd table. That's kind of nice. Hopefully we'll get a couple more spots to actually VPip and play. It's been a little slow thus far. You guys don't see every single hand that goes down for me. You don't see every single fold I make. So, if I play for like an hour, that might turn into like a 20-minute video instead of seeing the full hour, just because I don't need you guys to see me fold 10-8 offsuit every time. All right, so this is one I think we can finally VPip. I think it's been at least 10 minutes since I've played a hand. We're going to just peel here and essentially set mine. I mean, there might be some boards that we can continue on, but this is just not one of them. So we'll just be check folding on this one. Some boards we can call at least one bet, but he checks, and I mean, these spots are tricky. Like I tend not to bluff too much at low stakes, but it does seem like he wouldn't check back an ace that frequently. He has a lot of pocket pairs that will check back. He's going to snap peel. I think we just go like 75% and then pot, and then hopefully he folds like eights. And he snap calls turn, which I expect. So this is a spot where like I'm not going to bet turn and give up river, because he's always going to call once with a pocket pair that checked back flop. That's why he's checking back the flop. But if we go for pot on river, a lot of those hands that from an equity standpoint, like had us crushed, we just get to fold because he has no insight into our hand strike. Then we can easily have a good ace there. Now, finally, we get another actual like isolation spot, which is fun. I'm just gonna pot it. I think we want to play bigger pots here and like occasionally hit the rake cap and stuff like that in a high rake environment. I don't know why that's a bug. It keeps saying that I have to buy in for them for more than the minimum, and I have like almost the max or whatever. Yeah, so here we don't call. We just don't. I mean, he goes 4.5x, which is probably a pretty good size, I would say. Actually, almost 5x, excuse me. And he's quite deep, so covers us completely. And this hand has very bad implied odds, reverse implied odds, essentially. And I mean, we're just not really getting a good price with a hand that's going to do poorly against what his range probably is. And also, when you see people with stacks like this at low stakes, a lot of times they're nut peddling and they're just like gonna have it. And they're getting people to just stack off constantly with the worst of it. Now, not always. Sometimes you get confrontations at low stakes where they actually are playing sort of correct strategy and whatnot. But here we have an open, a 3-bet off of 30 big blinds. So I think we can actually cold 4 and get this in against specifically the 3-better and fold against like anybody else who continues. But it's a rare situation where we get to leverage this player's stack and it's not a tournament. Like, it's kind of weird thing. Like, it's very obvious I'm willing to get it in against this player. And so that kind of lends some credence to my range. Like, we might get ace queen off to fold here, where normally like we shouldn't really be allowed to do that, but we get to leverage the 3-bet of the shorter stack, which is kind of cool. Unfortunately, we get cold called on the cold 4, and then a min raise to half stack, and then the inevitable jam. I mean, God, like, if people have worse than ace king and worse than tens here, this is obviously a get it in. I don't know that they really do. This other player being in the hand is also somewhat scary. I'm inclined to just fold this. You know, we shot our shot here. I think we just fold. And like, yeah, it's very possible this player's weak and this player has ace king. I just realized you can't see my mouse. It's definitely possible that Zipazips has something relatively weak and that Finn has ace king, maybe ace queen suited, but I don't think Finn ever has 9s. And so when we can't dominate any of his range, I think we just have to fold. So we're obviously going to go back and look at that. Unsurprisingly, this player also gets in there, the Odin William player. And Finn now gets a board that is definitely favorable for him, so he just snap jams, which I think makes sense. I guess the side pot is only $4 because the 5-bet was to 8 and the all-in was for 6. So this is a very awkward spot if you're Odin William and have like... does he have like ace 10 or something? Jack 9 suited and pocket queens. Yeah, so I mean, and ace king. So like I said, I mean, the Odin William cold call is... wow. That is... Listen, I don't think online is rigged, but if I did, that would certainly serve my confirmation bias. By the way, I have a video about that. It might appear on some side of the screen in suggested videos. Wow. That is why. So that's also a way that you can build a $100 stack at 10 cent, 20 cent. I think we are going to open this one. Kind of, I mean... Listen, I think we played the hand well, and that's that's what counts. But it's funny, right? Like, the cold call of the cold 4 from the guy who's V-pipping 40% ended up being, you know, a weak hand, and that's okay. But the action dictated that somebody in the hand most likely had something very strong. Second time in a row, this guy's 3-bet me on my open, I believe. So I'm just checking his stats. He's not V-pipping or pre-flop raising a crazy amount. So there's really no reason yet to think that he's like targeting us or going after us in any way. But yeah, that's just something to, I guess, keep an eye on. And we're going to round it out with a 4th table here. Hopefully this helps us play a couple more hands. It's kind of funny. I don't think we're going to get kicked off any tables, but it's looking a little dicey on some of them. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. Again, kind of a tricky one. I think this could go either way. We are getting 9-1, and I'm confident in my post-flop abilities, so I'm gonna peel. But like, I mean, I would just be fine folding this. If there was no VPIP requirement, I would just fold. But with the VPIP requirement, it's a little more important we find spots to play hands. Like, this is another one where like it's just a fold. But because I have a VPIP requirement, I like consider playing it. Alrighty, let's ISO this one. I think we can, and this is one where we haven't played any hands, so if we don't want to get booted off the table, we need to be somewhat careful. Multi-way, this is a spot where I would really prefer to have a backdoor other than just a straight draw. I'm going to check this back as I'll check many hands back multi-way, even though it's a board that generally favors the pre-flop aggressor. And then here, facing half pot, just really have almost no equity, so we're going to get out of there. All right, so this one is not necessarily an open in a high rake environment, but again, VPIP requirement. Wow. I need to get after it. So this guy's just 3-bet jamming 80 bigs. I haven't been paying a lot of attention to know if he's like doing a lot of this, but we obviously can't call no matter what happens in front of us. We just have the snappiest of snap folds, of course. I want to make sure this doesn't jump away in case he shows. What is going on? I mean, this is what I'm talking about. Like, this is why people do stuff like that, is because sometimes you get called by King 8 offsuit. If I would have won this hand, it's going to be funny. It'll be funny. Wow, how does Jacks fold there? I mean, listen, I get it. You don't want to like put a bunch at risk, but if you're playing any stakes, you should be willing to lose 80 big blinds in a single hand. And that just seems like a spot where Jacks is a little too good. Maybe not in theory if he's optimally jamming 80 big blinds, but nobody's optimally jamming 80 big blinds. It's like going to be 10s through queens, ace, king, ace, queen, and then some random stuff more than it's going to be aces and kings, in my opinion. Now we get to at least peel, but maybe 3-bet. It's kind of weird in this game. Like, there's a lot of weird stuff happening that would lead me to maybe flat more, but I think we are going to 3-bet. I'm just going to pot it. I could certainly go bigger. But I don't really have to go bigger. Great board for the pre-flop 3-better, so I will bet small, which is going to be what I'll do pretty much with range on this board. Get called. He shouldn't really have a 3 almost ever. I mean, you know, it's kind of weird that because it's a weird game. But I think we get to go big and then pot river here a lot. I mean, we don't have spade blockers, which could be good, I guess. But if the river's not a spade, then it doesn't really matter. But we just get him to fold like a lot of ace high here on the turn. And then on the river, we can pressure like pretty much every pocket pair. I'm not usually in the business of trying to make people fold like small over pairs. But at the same time, I've been super inactive. Seems like an okay spot to at least consider going for it. I mean, an open jam from a 70% VPIP for 20 bigs, it's close. It's close. And I think we have to find some VPIPs here, so I guess I'm going to call it off. And we are way ahead. I'm not going to run it twice. No, sorry. Not gonna do it. And immediately punished, of course. And he's punished right back. Can we get the repunish? Will he repunish me? No, he cannot. Max pain. We get sat out so that we can get the sweat there, but that's all right. All right, we did it. We won a hand finally. We won like a real hand. So that's kind of nice. All right, so this is a mandatory squeeze, just straight up mandatory. I want to see how deep we are. With Don Smith, we're like a little over 100 bigs deep. I think potting it would be fine, but we want to go probably slightly bigger. There's just so much out there. I mean, like taking it down here with ace queen would be a phenomenal result. We got a fold from the preflop razor, which is probably the ideal thing that we wanted to have happen, but now it might still go super multi-way. Very interesting. We're just praying to get a piece and hold on, but also it's probably fine to just jam here. And like, we're just getting such a good price against the short stack and against the bigger stack. Like, unless he has a pair, we're just ahead. We're just basically ahead. So let's go take a look at what's going on over here. He does fold, and then even if this guy does have a pair, I mean, he has to call everything. That's the funny thing. Oh my God. I mean, we're still going to run it once, but This is classic low stakes though. Like he's supposed to just always rip it in pre. There's just no benefit to him waiting and seeing a clean flop. He still has to call if I jam on an ace high king high board. So kind of crazy here, but that actually didn't give me any additional outs. It looks like it could, but it didn't. A 3 would have given me more outs. Oh, we get to peel the river. Oh, so close. So close. But you know, that's just one of those spots. We don't get to win them all, and that's okay. Pretty much the key takeaway from that ace queen hand, I think, is that once we do squeeze that size and we create such a tiny SPR, we just have to recognize the ranges involved. Like these players are playing ranges that are too wide in almost every scenario. And so what that means is that when we actually have the ace queen on the 4-3-3, like yes, absolutely we can run into like ace 4, ace 3. Like that is a thing, but there's not really a lot of other 3x and 4x hands. And so now we're only looking at pocket pairs and hands we beat. And when that's the case, we just get to go nuts pretty much. It's not even going nuts though. Like, oh, the pot, we have a pot size bet behind. So it's like really not, it's like 90% pot or 95% pot or whatever. So it's like really not actually going nuts at all. It's just playing standard. So I don't do a lot of overlimping, but I think this is an okay spot to do it. Like if somebody blasts it behind us, we can just potentially fold depending on the stack sizes in play. And if not, you know, then we just get to try to hit a set basically. So we don't flop the set. We flop a weird like flush draw backdoor thing that is not super strong. So we're just gonna be kind of trying to navigate to showdown or potentially get there. I don't even think against 1/3 we have to call, to be honest with you. Here we play top pair a little bit sneaky, and so I think we need to peel at least one, even though there's a bet and a call. We didn't see bet as the pre-flop aggressor, despite flopping top pair. So we are going to probably check fold if it goes like good size bet call. But against this action, I think we have the best hand quite a bit. We probably even bet for value here, but small. We don't really want to be polarized in this spot, I do not think. And I'm guessing we won that hand. I don't see the spot anymore. So sorry about that. One bad thing about playing 4 tables in this kind of like mobile setup is that you can't actually see every table at once. That's pretty much the only downside. So slight misstep here. I didn't notice that this person had posted, and I've only gone to 2.5x, but it's just not really that big of a deal. Just have to know that people are getting an even better price now. Face a small 3-bet, and we're gonna peel because we're just fairly deep against this player. I mean, I don't think people 3-bet too wide to that size, but I don't think we can fold either. I think check back is okay, but this is a board that definitely favors us, so we're gonna go for a bet to start. We may face some check raises, which is why I think checking back could be kind of okay. Now I will check back and just realize some equity. I think I have a lot of checkbacks here. And now he checks again. I mean, it's hard, right? Like, it's hard to know what people will really do here. They may well expect that I would only bet a straight or something. So I might have to polarize if I'm going to bet. And I don't have that much 5x. I have like a couple. I think it's fine to just give up. I don't think we get that many folds. Yeah. And they'll have overpairs a decent amount. So here's an interesting one. I think we could ISO, we could check. I'm just going to check because I don't think we're getting enough folds. And this is just going to be a common theme in low stakes. When you aren't getting a lot of folds pre, it can be okay to find the overlimps, to find the checks in the big blind, even with kind of borderline hands. Checks through here. I don't expect much queen X, but also my hand has some bit of showdown value, so I don't think we're going to bet. We're just going to kind of give this one up and go from there. Yeah, seems like we're going to get to showdown on this one. Maybe not. I mean, maybe somebody bets a 6, but I think it's unlikely. We're probably just going to lose to like pocket 5s or something. Like that's the most likely thing. Kind of weird bet. I mean, I don't expect a queen to check twice. I don't expect a 6 to do this for value. I mean, pocket 6s are out there for sure, but against this size, I actually think we can call. I think too tall will have to fold a lot of like better hands than ours. And you know, we'll run into something here sometimes, but wow, he did value bet a 6 for that size. That's pretty wild. I mean, when somebody's V-pipping 68, you kind of have to just like close your eyes and call sometimes. I mean, probably not a big sample. 41 hands though. It's not nothing. But good for him for finding that value bet. I mean, I think besides against me, he's mostly going to get called by like specifically pocket sevens. But it's possible that that bet works. It's hard to say. I mean, he's kind of targeting another 6, which I think is kind of cool. But I also think that there's just not a lot of other 6x out there. So interesting spot though. Cool one. Cool one to maybe wrap up on. Maybe I can finally get like some kind of a premium going here and make make a value bet or something. I don't know. Like our best hand all day on 4 tables has been it's been like an hour and a half. Our best hand has been pocket tens. And we haven't had like ace king, ace queen, ace jack. We haven't had almost any pocket pairs. It's kind of wild actually. Like I go to sit down and make a video and we just don't get anything to happen. But you know, this is just how low stakes goes sometimes, and actually just how poker goes in general. It's not really a poker stake specific thing. Like it doesn't really matter that it's low stakes. Oh yeah, I'm gonna get fewer value hands because it's low stakes. Nope, not how it works, Matt. Not how it works. All right, guys. Yeah, I'm like timing out on tables, and I'm about to get booted from some of them for V-pipping too low. So we're gonna call it here. I hope this ends up being enough to be a useful video. But if I could sum up kind of like the takeaways, I would say low stakes, right? High rake environment. You're gonna need to play a little tighter, a little more value oriented. You need to win at showdown a little more frequently. Number 2, ranges are just not always going to make sense, right? We saw a couple spots where like everything did make sense except for like one player in the hand had some outrageous hand, right? So you just kind of have to like keep an eye out on the spaz factor and expect that some people won't play the way you would play. So like in that hand with the king 6 where I thought his value bet was too thin, but he did it, right? Like he didn't do what I would have done in that spot. So and actually maybe I would have found that value bet as well, given the positions and given everything. So like people can't surprise you. Things that like look bad on the surface, maybe you dig a little deeper and actually it was fine. Maybe it was actually even good. So keep an open mind on stuff like that. But you'll also have people playing like really wide ranges, people V-pipping insane numbers that can't possibly be profitable. So I think one of the takeaways from that is just to really, you're going to want to pay attention, right? Pay attention to the V-pip, pay attention to who's playing frequently, who's not playing frequently, right? And then on top of that, you're going to play more multi-way. And so the points about needing to win the hands more often, that becomes just even more significant in multi-way spots. So I think those are the big takeaways from today for the live lows, not live, but from the low stakes online environment. Hopefully this was helpful. I know we didn't get to too many of like my hands because just nothing really happened. But as far as getting through some concepts, I thought it was good. So let me know down in the comments below what you would like to hear me talk about in the next Play and Explain. If you thought that the low stakes was useful, or if you prefer looking at the higher stakes stuff that might be a little bit tougher, more. And don't forget that I have an Ask Me Anything thread on the CardsChat Poker Forum. And I think that's about it. I'll see you guys all in another video very soon. And don't forget to drop this video a like and a comment. Thanks a lot. This has been Matt Vaughan. I'll see you next time.